All right, this is my final project for 2282 networking. I will be going over my logical and physical view here on Cisco Packet Tracer. And so as you can see here, it's kind of zoomed in, but this is building A. And if you go down, I can zoom in. This is building B, C, and D. This is my parking lot here. So I made it all pretty much the same redundant star method. So we can go to I'm at building A, sorry, and we can see that all the labels in each room are listed along with the IP addresses. So you've got the human medical room, radiological source testing, material science 1, etc. It all follows and looks like the physical view. And it all looks like this building right here, just like that. I try to make it look similar. And you can see that each switch, I have a switch in each room, and they all have its own names. The way I gave it, just the device name to right here, human medical room, switch A. And you can see that I have my server room. I created my own closet and made a server room right here, which is going to be right here. And I actually put my PC, a access point, and my access points for wireless Wi-Fi, of course, and my main server right here. And you can see the redundancy connected between each multi-layer because it's connected to each other, and the server is connected to both of the multi-layer switches, and our PC and access point is only connected to one, just right here. So it's connected to each switch in every room, like I mentioned, for redundancy. If one multi-layer switch goes out, then no big problem. It'll go to the other one. So I have the wireless router connected to this multi-layer switch right here, like I mentioned in my paper, not only to get out internet, but for Wi-Fi bridging purposes and in order to communicate to the other buildings. As you'll see, I'll just explain in my physical paper, my physical view in a second. So we go all the way down. You can see this is my parking lot. My parking lot components, I have a router for the same function, of course, to communicate through the buildings, to have wireless Wi-Fi. And so I have it connected to my multi-layer switch, which goes to I have an access point, my trip sensor, a smart LED, the trip sensor times 900, of course. I wasn't going to be able to fit 900 here. So along with my LEDs, and it's connected to my access point. So I don't have a second multi-layer switch just because of cost, and it would help if campus did give you a little bit amount of money, or any organization, and you were always able to add a second multi-layer switch, just like my building above, to ensure a redundancy, fail-safe backup plan, of course. So if you were to see this in a logical view, you will see that my multi-layer switch from the parking lot is connected to the lift station, which has its components right here. This is actually called a think component, and it was listed on the instructions in the rubric. Don't mind this. So these two are supposed to be in there. I wasn't able to get a port with that. Looks like a puzzle piece. And you can see that it is connected to my lift station and my transformer 5, which is in the very far right, and I have my PC and my access point as it was listed in the rubric to ensure connectivity. So I'm going to go to the physical view. This is my parking lot. So I'm going to go to the physical view, and you can see here was what my logical view just looked like, as I had my access point, and I should have a trip sensor here. It's not showing on the physical side. Smart LED is not showing as well, but we do have it in the room, as you can see. It's not popping up. There we go. Yeah, I got them right there. It's not popping up, but it should be right there. And you can see that we have a router on the outside for the same purpose, of course, above, to have connectivity through Wi-Fi. And so we are going to talk about the lift station right here. We can see how it's connected to our transformer and our lift station. You can see the components are in there, what they need to be. Lift station, yeah, okay. So I did not end up trenching from here all the way to the wastewater facility like it mentioned, but I did have a little bit of cost explained in my write-up. So I did have, my idea was to have one big trench start from here and go all the way to the end, and have a little one connect from each building, like you can see, like this little 90 foot one right here. Have a little trench connect to each building from under there to here to there. And so it's similar, to like just any kind of system with a straight pipe that spiders out. It could be a sprinkler system, it could be any other type of system with a strong line that just spiders out, as you can see right here. So now I'll be obviously mentioning my parking lot. I have my metric system turned on in my options preferences, but it's not showing the footage for some odd reason. Usually pops up right here. You can see the footage and stuff like that. But so I went based off the line above. We have this 150 foot for just the building, its size. And so I kind of calculated that on my asset inventory, and so I have essentially two access points. It's not showing the other one, right? Like on my logical view, you could saw, but to give off Wi-Fi capability in the parking lot. And then you can see my LED is supposed to be right down there. So it's supposed to be right here, but it's not showing. So it's obviously to have enough light throughout the whole parking lot. I only had one. I wasn't gonna have 1800, or sorry, 900. And I was just gonna put it throughout right here to have the bright lights, of course, in the parking lot. And my trip sensor is right here on my logical view, but you can't see it. Okay, whatever. Yeah, it's right there, and then it would be right here essentially. And so with trenching, you would essentially go down right here and cut across and spider out just throughout the trenching with the trip sensors. So same with my transformer. You can see that to get power, you're gonna have to trench obviously through right over here to get the transformer active. And you can see that I talked about the devices in each of these rooms, which were required: access point, a power meter, and a PC. And I threw a switch in there just so I can ensure connectivity. And we have this right here, along with this little thing that I mentioned on the rubric. So yeah, we can go to building A and see specifically what it looks like. Okay. So now we are a little zoomed in. You can see my LEDs. I put one on every corner of the building, as it mentioned on the rubric, to have light on the outside of the building. So each room I'm going to talk about, you can see that I didn't use these two communication rooms. I started with a server room. I actually added that because it made more sense to my brain. Now we are on the server room. You can see my two multi-layer switches you saw in the logical topology. And you can see that they're connected to each other to ensure redundancy. And you can see that both of them are connected to my server. And like my server is connected to both switches, and my PC and my access point right here are just connected to one switch. So we're going to back out of this room. I have the required components it asks for, and we're going to go moving on to the left to our human medical room. You can see our switch, our PC, access point, power meter, and our generic wired device. I actually had these each labeled, so you can see this is for human medical. You probably can't see that small. So this one's for human medical resource, room 1, PC 4, and then along with my access point, I have them all labeled. You can see a nice about how I labeled it, just so you can see what there is. And yeah, that's going to be labeled on almost every single room I have actually. It's going to be according to my asset inventory. Everything is actually linear, and so we can get out of this room. I put an access point in this room to make sure to have capability of Wi-Fi. And so now we're going to go to this one's going to be essentially the same thing, essentially, and with the required components. You can see my laptop was in there. Material Science 1, the components I had, I had a switch connected to my PC, and I had my lighting panel and then my microscope right here. Lighting panel actually in every room just to ensure light. It's supposed to be a power meter on as what it required on the rubric. So you can go through Material Science 2, essentially going to be the same thing. We have my switch, two PCs, all the required components, and you can see that they're all labeled neatly. And that's how it would be for Material Science 3 and 4. I have the listed components, and then the radiological air monitoring, our water testing room, and you can see our wireless router we have right here connecting to, it's a wireless bridge, and you can see, I'll talk about that in a second. But then we go down to our RFID readers that we have at the front of each building. So we have on the front left and the front right. Essentially, there's 12 rooms counting. So I wasn't going to put 12 of RFID readers. I was just going to do times 6 here, times 6, and just to keep it somewhat clean. And so like I mentioned earlier, there's no communication. I didn't put any devices in these rooms because I just made my own server room and I put it in the middle because I thought it looked a little cleaner, and it kind of looked like my logical point up here. So that's what I essentially thought. But I did have the required components listed in the boiler HVAC room. So I just didn't use those two rooms. And so pretty much the main structure of having a switch and access point, and every room will stay consistent. It's like, as you can see, all my buildings, I ended up doing the same configuration on every one of my buildings, and it all looks the same. So you can see that earlier I was talking about Wi-Fi bridging. You can see that this will connect to our router 2, and this will go all across to each building, and this will hit finally the router, which is 3, building C, however you want to say it. But so now we are going to go back to our logical view. Our logical view, now you can see so this is my home router I was talking about on building A, and I actually watched a bunch of Keith Barker videos trying to figure out how to really configure. But now we are here on the router. You can see you're able to mess with a bunch of these settings, and I actually was able to make it DHCP, which is of course a like automatic configuration. So allowing me to put like all my end devices mainly on DHCP. So there's some that are static, but I found DHCP to be more convenient. Like I said, it was an automatic connection. So we have here, we can come back to this later. My server actually is on DHCP, which I turned on. It was on static. I think all of them are on static off default, but I made it on just DHCP for both of the ports. So we're able to see here if we hover over it, if it even pops up. Okay, maybe not. All right. So you can see that right here, right by my cursor, you can see VLAN 1, which is already our default, and then you can see our VLAN 10, VLAN 11, and VLAN 12. Has its own IP address on the very far on the right, and the subnet mask /24 and its own default gateway. So you can see that on the VLANs, it's supposed to have like a segregated system. And each device, like I mentioned earlier, this one's on DHCP, I believe. Yeah. But if you were to go to this one, you can see that you can make it wireless. and it would actually, oh, we gotta go to the physical. You gotta actually take this out and may put